Good morning, everybody. Good evening. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Virgil's studio, and I'm Dave because Virgil's not here. Anyways, I'd like to welcome you back to, we're doing this home recording on the PC. We're going to do part 2 today. We're going to dive right into the mechanics of this as opposed to theory behind this, and hoping and encouraging you can do it. Watch the last video. That'll kind of pump you up, hopefully a little bit. Sorry it's been such a delay. Had COVID and hurricanes and all sorts of other baloney was happening. So I am back. We're going to talk today about MIDI and audio. Woohoo! You hear these words all the time. It's like, hey, it's audio, it's MIDI. What is it? If we look at a DAW, which is a digital audio workstation, it's going to take 2 inputs for the most part. It's just bringing in 2 inputs. And one is going to be an audio input, like guitars, vocals, anything you're putting a microphone on. And the other is going to be a MIDI input. What is MIDI? I was thinking about, how do I present this video? Do I go into all this technical jargon as to where MIDI was born and going on and getting long-winded and doing research? Bullshit. I don't do a lot of research, but I will give you all my experience from the past 30 years of working with MIDI. And what MIDI really is, and it was described to me early on as this. It's like a TV channels, right? So you flip, you got the flipper, right? Hey, when we were kids, we had to walk up to the TV. That's why we were skinny back then, because we do that to our fat fathers. Just kidding. Hope I didn't hurt anybody's feelings. Okay, so what the MIDI is it's basically going and taking a note like on a MIDI keyboard. You'll hear it's a MIDI keyboard. It's a MIDI keyboard. Here I have a little Arturia MIDI keyboard. This is the key step. And I think it's the little, what is it, the 25 key or something like that? The 37, something like that. I don't know. Here, let's count them. 1, 2. Anyways, this is a MIDI keyboard. And how I would hook this into the computer is, how does it go in there, and where do I connect it? And I don't understand, and there's so many outputs in the back, and I'm getting lost, and it's so complicated. It's not complicated. Okay. Well, I guess it is from the beginner's standpoint, but as soon as you dig into it, you get it plugged in, and it's really exciting. Then you get that hooked up, and you're playing a little piano on there, and even if you don't play piano, you should probably still have yourself one of these if you're doing home recording. You get these units. This was about $100, not a bad deal, and it's the case is actually metal. It even has aftertouch. We'll talk about that later on down the road. But for now, know this, that you can basically play all the different notes on here instead of just sitting there with a mouse trying to click in the notes, which becomes a little bit difficult on the computer. So you're sitting there and you're saying, okay, so it plugs in. What kind of sounds does it have? It has 0 sounds. What? That's right. This has no sounds. Isn't that interesting? What this is going to do is it's going to access sounds off of your computer. How does that work? Well, we have these little things that we install that are called VSTs, and that stands for Virtual Studio Technology, I believe. And these VSTs are little instruments that come with Cubase LE, and that comes with a stack of these. And again, I'm training everybody on Cubase, and it's just going to be the starters edition. I think it's called the LE version. We're going to do that, and as you go into there, you're going to see how simple and cool it is to record. So on here, let's reel it back just a little bit, and we're going to look at how do we hook this up to the computer. Okay, well, one thing that they have is it says MIDI in and out, and that could be a little bit confusing, because then you would say, well, I'm going to need one of these old school MIDI cables, and I have one right here, so you can take a look at that, see what that looks like. This is a old school MIDI cable. They look like so. You got that? Isn't that kind of cool? And on these cables, They basically just go one way. You're going to have to get the direction. It's got a little bump in there. You can see that little bump on that one side there. You see that? And that's going to go to the top. So you could go like this for the MIDI out. That would be coming out of here, right? So you want the MIDI going out. Always try to follow that direction, like whether it be audio or MIDI, we want to kind of get this signal path, and we want to understand how the signal path works. So if I'm playing something here, I want this to go out to my computer. And when it gets to the computer, it's going to the in. However, you're probably not going to have an in that looks like this, unless if you've got a really old computer. Some of those had some MIDI cards in them installed. Every once in a while you'd see this and you'd be able to plug it. Actually, I think it was I had a Sound Blaster Live card, and it came with this little adapter thing and all these pigtails coming off it. It was a cluster schmuck behind my computer back in the day. But when we look at this little cable here, this is going to be pretty much useless for us. So what do? Well, you just grab a, these usually come with their own USB cable, and this is the older USB. It's not the USB-C, it's the one before that. So you would just hook that into there, right? And then that would hook into your USB port of your computer. As soon as you plug something like this in, it's going to show up in your program. So when you go to start your program, it's going to go, haha, you have a MIDI instrument. And we'll talk about that later down the road, because we want to dig into these things so you can see that as well. So first off, you would need to get a MIDI controller. They're called MIDI controllers. They're not called MIDI keyboards per se, but they can be called that as well. There's somebody fighting in a bar in Lebanon right now over that. So as we look at these, what's happening is, and let me explain this next part of the MIDI, which is pretty darn cool. When you go ahead and hit a note on here after it's plugged in, what it's going to do is it's going to send that note to the program, which is your DAW, and whatever's loaded in there, whichever VST is loaded in there, and the VSTs can be just about anything these days. And I'm going to go from the normal to the extreme. So a basic VST might be a drum machine, or excuse me, drums. You might have a piano, organs, bass guitars, all sorts of things. And it goes all the way to the crazy stuff like I have a VST of a ruler. That's right, a little wooden ruler that you used to play with at the desk at school, going, remember that? I have a VST that actually has sampled rulers. And I think it's called the Ruler. Look it up, you'll find it. I also have one called Flatulous, and you guessed it, it's sampled farts, because you know, some people like myself will never grow up, and farts are always funny. Okay, so these things are going to access that, and what happens is it's going to have certain keys assigned to different things. Let me move the mic out of the way just a little tiny bit. What is that little black thing at the bottom? I don't understand. Okay, so if we go over here, let's say we have this hooked up for drums. What's going to happen as soon as we hit this note, it's going to be maybe the kick drum, and then this might be the snare over here. And these might be hi-hats over here. And they're going to be pretty standard with the same way that they usually are routed. A lot of times they're going to be using what's called as general MIDI mapping. So there's this whole mapping procedure too. And it gets really crazy. It gets really, I'm going to say complicated. Not for people like myself and others and producers who've been doing this for years. They go, it's easy, kid. No, it's not. If people are brand new at this, they don't get how this stuff works. And that's why I want to have this video, because there seems to be more videos on how to do the really intense stuff that ends up being way out of your brain capacity when you're starting things out at the very beginning. So as I plug this in, I'm able to do MIDI recording. So the MIDI recording is taking notes from this MIDI instrument, and it's telling the computer, it's saying, hey man, access this note right now out of that program. So the program, let's talk about the program for a second, the VST program itself. When we think about those programs, and I guess we're gonna move over to we're gonna switch this over to Cubase so you can see how this works in there. And then I'm going to use one of my keyboards that I have down here in front of me, because I have a couple keyboards here. I have a big 88 key complete keyboard, and then I have the Keylab 61 Mark II over here up towards the top of my desk. So I'm going to use these within the program so you can take a look at this. Let's see what this looks like within Cubase. So we're going to give this a try. We're going to do some recording within some tracks here. And I got the Groove Agent track. I had to kind of redo some stuff as the audio wasn't working the way I had planned. So that's a whole new level of doing things where, you know, it's not tricky enough to try to record within this program, but to record the recording is something even more spectacularly difficult. So after everything's ironed out, then we come in here. We're going to try just getting some tracks in here. So now as I'm selected with Groove Agent, it's saying that I'm at the complete control. And you always want to make sure that you have this selected to whichever MIDI controller that you're using. If I'm in here, I can actually hit some different pieces of these drums here. I believe that it would show this too. So if we're looking at the instrument, let's bring this over here, and we're going to go to, that's the edit. We're going to go to the mixer options, edit, and then we could just go to instrument, and then it should be showing that. And then you can see it's going to show the graphics. Isn't that fun, kids? So you can do finger drumming if you like. Nobody is going to yell at you for doing finger drums, and I'm just no good at this, but I can get something basic on here. So what I'd be doing is just, I'm hitting a couple keys here. This ends up being, and it'll tell you right on there. It says that's C1, and then that's D1 right there. Can you see that on there, kids? C1 and D1, isn't that cool? So I'm on my keyboard hitting the C and then the D here. And if I were to just hit record right now, I'm going to try doing some finger drums in here just so you got an idea of this. And it kind of really farted out at the end there. I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit these. I'm going to just get them a little bit better situated, because as I play this, it's going to be a little bit sloppy and warbly. It's a little off there, kind of like me. So I'm going to show you how we're going to fix this, because these are MIDI notes and they're meant to be fixed. Damn it. That's one route of actually getting something in here. So we're going to see how this goes. I'm going to go ahead and double click on here and get this out of the way so I can look at the notes that I did. These are the notes that I did, and you can see that they're somewhat off here, right? Another thing that I'd be able to do is I'd be able to, hang on a second. I'd actually be able to delete some of these last notes that I want. So what I want is, it's right at 5 here. I'm going to get rid of these guys because I just want the first 4 bars. How I'm scrolling this is actually, I have a scroll wheel on my mouse and I'm holding down the shift key at the same time. This lets me scroll to the beginning or go to the end right there, and you'll be able to see stuff like so. This is kind of neat. It's an easy way to kind of navigate around here. Another thing I could do is if I put the 4-point cursor up here, I could click there and then I could pull it that way, or I could go up, and then it's going to show all these notes. I can highlight these notes by just drawing, and I'm just clicking down. This is a left click here, and I'm pulling this across here to select all the notes. That's one way to select all of them, or I could go Control A. That'll select all the notes. Or if I just want to get some notes, I'll just make a box of those notes right there. All right, now that they're all selected, I actually have, we have this, this is the soft quantize on and off. And if I click on this little E here, this is going to actually show me right here as to how soft this is. And what this is at 75%. So that means it's actually not going to be doing it at 100%. It's not going to be making it perfect. And I could actually hit quantize right now, and it's going to straighten everybody out a lot better than they were. So we're going to hear this from the beginning now. Now this last one is messed up, and instead of trying to adjust that perfectly, another thing that I could do is I could just simply highlight this, and then I could just move this, and I'm holding down the Alt key right now, and then you'll see that it's going to be able to let me do like a paste, cut and paste thing here. So when I get to the end, that should sound better. Nice. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw some hi-hats in here. I could draw these in, which is kind of neat. I can just draw the hi-hats here as soon as I find out where they're at. How I can do it is I'm just holding down the left click here, and I just found that right there. So these are hi-hats right here. So now if I want, I could actually draw these in here, and they would be like right here. And if I right click, I'll have a pen tool here, and I could just click right there, and that's going to be a highlight there. And if I did that like every other time, then I would have these guys kind of going like this. And if I take it from the beginning and play that, now it's actually going to play those hi-hats there. If I like that, I'm going to go ahead and copy these over to here. Now that they're done, I'm going to copy all these over to there. And now that they're all done, I can copy them to here. Or I could have manually played these within there too. That would have been another option, right? So now I got some hi-hats, and I could actually even put in an open hat at the end of each one of these bars if I'd like. So right there, I'm going to find an open hi-hat. Is there an open hat in here anywhere? These are probably open hats already. I don't hear an open hat. That could be one. Yep, I just don't hear an open hat there. Does anybody hear one? Open hi-hat, are you there? Maybe that one. Sounds kind of close what I'm looking for. We'll just use this for now. Right there. That sounds fine. So those are manually programmed drums. If you're sitting there and you're totally confused as to how that went, don't feel bad, because I'd be too if it was the first time I was looking at a video on MIDI and audio. So another option we have is within Groove Agent SE, we have this thing where we could select pattern instead of instrument here. Now all of a sudden everything changes around. There's some really cool things within this VST that I'll get into at another time, but just for now I want to show you some basic stuff. This is actually doing something similar by just, and all I'm doing is holding down this key, and this is saying C0. So if I went here to C0, it's not going to do it because I have to select this, I believe. There it is. Now, if I want to drag and drop this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this Omni thing here, right? So I'm going to just drag and drop this over here. Now I have this drum groove already. It makes life a lot more simpler. You're more than welcome to create your own drum patterns, and I'm going to go more deeper into drums and drum VSTs in this series. Eventually I'm going to go into some really cool stuff that you're going to have fun with, whether you like it or not. So now if I want to repeat this, all I'm doing is I'm going for this little center one. See this? So this little center guy right here, if I click on him and pull him to the right, he's going to copy this whole thing. So now I got this. So I got this drum beat that's totally working right there, right? I get a drum beat. Now I'm going to put in, let's put in a bass. So I'm going to run through a little bit of a bass line here, and let's do this on, we're going to do this on key lab. So I'm just going to go like this. Something like that. That sounds lovely. I'm going to hit record, and I'm going to throw on just a little bit of a bass line. You could have fun with this. I'm telling you, watch. 2, 3, 4. So just that little thing alone, that'll totally work. And then I could copy this one going down here, okay? So that's just going to repeat itself. If you notice, there's a bit of a delay on that first one. We're going to get rid of these, and we're going to see what the problem is. I'm going to double click on here, and I have a feeling that he started just a little bit late on there, or this last one here isn't lined up. You can see these aren't lined up really well. So I basically came in there a little bit too early. Okay, a lot of bit too early. You guys be nice. So if I were to hit these guys up, and then just kind of maybe hit this, we're going to go back into this soft quantize. It's going to get it close, but it's not going to get it perfect. If you notice, they're off just a little bit. Now, if I try to play this again, it should sound a little bit better. This last one is awful. It's going in way too fast. I should have seen that, but I didn't. So now when I'm coming over here, I can see that he's probably needing to be somewhere around there. Now I'm going to play this again. And I'm going to go a little bit longer with these guys. Now, if you notice, they're snapping to the grid. They're going, you just got to be this long or this short, whatever. And it's kind of annoying that it does that. So I'm just going to take off this says snap on or off right here, right? So if I take that off, I could go longer with these notes if I want. So I'm going to go just a little bit longer with them and hear how that sounds. Go a little bit longer with this guy. Pretty good. Maybe a little shorter. Yeah, that'll work. Now I can copy him over and over and over again. Now we're going to go into the piano here. So I've got a piano going, and this piano, we're going to throw in some chords. Now, if you don't know how to play chords, that's okay, because again, we've got some AI, some artificial intelligence that can help you along here. We're going to go over to the chord pads at the bottom here, and we're going to try just hitting a C, F, and a G here, okay? So if, one of the ways I can do it is with my keyboard. Right? So I could just have the keyboard playing this. I ended up putting on these, let me see. I'm going to put that in there in a minute. So as I go here, I can hit this C. So I'm at this C right now, but I want to make sure that this is selected as complete control. You don't want to have that as going as multiple MIDI, like more than it's all MIDI inputs. You want to get it to the instrument that you want. So I'm going to go from here, then I'm going to go to an F and a G. And I'm going to record it that way, but I'm going to show you another way to do this too, in case if you don't have a MIDI controller. So we're going to record this in here right now. So now there's a couple chords I got going, and I did that live, and I was able to go in there and get that pretty close. And again, that's not perfectly on, but this is nice stuff to actually have, is to have stuff not so perfect and it doesn't sound hermetically sealed, so sterile sounding, right? But I could just loop these guys in there a few times. Another way I could do this is, like I said, if I don't have a MIDI controller, I can come in with, I can actually come in there with the just dragging and dropping these chords in. So I could just take this C, I could drag it and drop it right there. And then I could take this F, and I'm going to put an F right there. And I'm going to put the G right there. Now I got to make these guys shorter, because if you notice, they were shorter over here. How I'm going to make them shorter is I'm going to highlight both of them, double click on here, shrink this down. That's the control and mouse wheel that I'm doing there, right? So in between those, I could get that. Another thing I do is hit Control A, and I could shorten these up, but I want to get this snap tool right, or sorry, I want to get the snap tool right here. And I'm going to change the quantize to quarter notes. That'll be fine. So as soon as I go here, now they're half their length, and now I can make these blocks shorter as well. And I can put him right there. I think this came in a little bit sooner. Let's see exactly where this happens at. So you can see where that comes in. That's coming a little bit sooner. It's changing the rhythm just a little bit, but we'll use this rhythm here. This will be fine for now. So as you hear this, and the other one I kind of like coming a little bit earlier. Now, I can always get my glue gun here and glue these into one chord here, or into one block per se. So as I get this block here, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this snap tool off. I'm going to come up to this chord here, make it a little bit shorter, and then I'm going to bring this guy in, and I'm going to have him happen a little bit sooner. So I'm going to go right there. Now we're going to listen to this. We can listen to over here. And that'll work. So that's a lot more like these guys over here. And again, I can copy that as well. Let's work on this bass a little bit. And again, we've got some cool things that are happening with this song, because we're building up different tracks. It's all about layering and putting a little bit of effort into each one of these tracks to come up with a nice little jam track, or the song that you've always hoped that you could put together and you never thought you could. You're using instruments that you've never played before here. And sometimes it gets overwhelming only because of the fact that your brain is saying, I've never done this before, as opposed to saying, well, I can't wait to see how I could mess this up. So change your verbiage, and then all of a sudden you're going to be doing some great things here, right? So let's look at fixing this bass a little bit. If I think about this, I'm going, it'd be nice if I had these notes kind of following the chords a little bit more. And I'm going to double click on here, and I want to look at what's happening. If I double click on this, it's going to bring up my it's going to bring up this, and it's going to be showing all the different notes that I'm doing here, right? If I click on this as well, what it's going to do is, now what I did was I held shift and clicked there. Now what it's doing is it's showing me what's happening at the different chords. Isn't that kind of cool? So I can see that this is doing one thing. That bass is right here, but that's a piano right there. So I'm going to change this to an F, right? And I'm going to go to this F, but I'm going to go, let's go to this F here, right? So I'm going to match, and this happens all the time. I'm going to just go and move anyway. So it was actually outside. It's going out of the bound. See how that turns white there? That means you're going outside of the boundary there, man. And it's not going to play. So you got to make sure that that thing is right. The next thing is we're moving to this G right here. We're going to leave these other notes for now, but I'm going to move this guy to a G. And again, I don't want him snapping. I'm going to just move him to a G right there, and he's lining up with that G right there. Do you see that? All these notes don't have to be the same. They're going to be fine like this. So we're going to hear what this sounds like, right? I'm going to close this up, and then we're going to listen to this together. Very nice. Now that's going to be changed to every other one. I'm going to go here, there, and everywhere. And if I take him, now I can just hold down the Alt key, and I'm going to drag him to these different spots here. Isn't that neat? So now that's filled up in there. I propagated it along with the F and G chords here. So now we're going to listen to this. This is kind of fun, but it's always about expanding and fixing things and changing stuff around, having fun with the instruments. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move this piano track to another track. I'm going to move it to a synth track over here, but it's basically going to be the same thing. It's just giving us a different sound, obviously. It's giving us the same chords, but we just moved it down. If you notice, it just changed its name to Dune. Up here, it was called Piano. Now I move it to the Dune track, and that'll change its name right there. So now I could actually hit this like this. Pretty cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in a, I'm going to put in a rhythm guitar here, okay? I have my guitar is plugged into my Axe FX3, which is an effects unit. It's a rack mountable unit, the Axe FX3. And I'm going to use that for recording here. I'm going to keep this rhythm guitar nice and clean as I do this, because I really don't want to put on heavy. I don't want to go into heavy effects here. The reason is because I don't want to have what's called as destructive editing. That means if I have too much reverb on there, and then later on when I have 20 or 30 tracks and I wonder why the guitar sounds like crap, is because I put too much reverb on the beginning. So what I like to do is a lot of times I'll just go into there, into my Axe FX panel, which is right here, and I'm able to take the reverb off. I've already done this before, so I have this reverb off on this channel that I'm coming into right now. If you'll see there's no effects on here either. It's just running through an amp and a cabinet, and then it's going to the out right here. So that ends up making this rhythm guitar sound really clean. And when I go to throw this track on, it should sound pretty good. Doesn't have a bunch of effects on there or anything like that. And I should be all right. Let's hear how it sounds. That sounds good enough for me for now. So I'm going to just hit record on here. If you notice, I selected this track. I just click on whatever track I want to use. And this one says rhythm guitar. I've set this up for myself. We're going to go into templates at another point. This is just a basic understanding of audio and MIDI, and I'm recording audio now. And you'll see that it has on this audio track, when you insert an audio track, I right click, says add track, and then I can have it select audio. Then it's going to ask me, well, where are you going to put it in at? And it's like select my hardware input, and it could be anywhere of my hardware inputs that I have, okay? And then the configuration is mono. I want to have this stereo, so I would select that. And it's using my audio inputs Axe FX. I've already preset some things on the computer to make things easy for myself. Do you guys into that? So now I'm just using this one here, which is already using the Axe FX. You can see right here. And I'm going to try recording this electric guitar in here. Here we go. And I have myself a nice little rhythm track. I can bring the levels up on this if I want by just simply going to this middle little node here, and I can pull this up. You can see how loud it's going to get. I can adjust my volume that way, and I can also adjust it here on the mix console. Most of the time I'm trying to get everybody even through the VST or the instrument, or if I had recorded an audio track, I can actually adjust that, the decibels right here and trying to get it even with the track. I want to try to have these levels here, I want to have them all be even, right? So you'll see this synth bass is a little bit lower. I was messing with this before, and as you hear this playing, now you're going to hear them all together. Now, if you notice, there should be a little bit of a reverb on here. Why? Well, I put a couple of verbs on here on this track already earlier. So I have some reverbs that I use. So as you're listening to this, we're going to solo the guitar here by hitting this little S. So we could just listen to that track. And I'm going to take off the reverbs. And then I'm going to have this loop. So hitting loop is right down here. And now you're going to hear it without the reverbs. Listen. A quick little side note, Your Honor, is it actually cut off at the very beginning. If you listen to this, listen. That's cutting off right there. And it's a bad practice to be recording stuff like right at the beginning of where you want to record them. It's okay, but you got to get used to that. And in this case, I should have just moved everybody over just slightly and then recorded the guitar on there. What does he mean by I don't understand? Well, if I were to take this loop off and I were to just kind of select everybody and make sure my snap is on and have this at quarters, what I could do is I could just simply move it to this bar right here. And then as I'm recording, I would start like right before this. So I would just take this track and again, listen to this. So instead of doing that, and I'll fix this just so you guys could hear it and see how I do this. I'm gonna delete this track and I'm gonna record it again. So you're gonna hear this on here. Now you're going to hear that should be coming in without a problem. And you'll hear this right here. And that's not being cut off by any means. Once again, we're going to go back to this and we're going to listen to this with some reverb on here. And we're going to solo this track out. Now on here, and again, I'm going to move my loop. Watch this. You turn this into a little hand. And then you could get it to the loop section right there and hit loop right down here. Now I'm going to put in, we're going to put in one of the verbs. Listen. It's a nice shimmery one. So that's just using the crystalline verb. And then the other verb I have is the ROM. And I'm running two reverbs because it really sounds pretty cool when you're using a couple of reverbs together. In unison, it just gives this really great tone. You don't want to go nutso on the levels of these reverbs. You just want to have them up just a little bit, right? So now you could hear this. It's really nice and it's not losing the guitar too much. A lot of times you start losing the guitar, and later on, if I got a bunch of instruments in here, I can always change it around so it'll just kind of work out a lot better and just kind of fit within the mix. It's always about trying to make everything fit with the mix. So as I play this all together with everybody else, here we go. There we go. And I'm all ready to get some other recording done. This is really fun stuff where I could just be able to put in a little solo now. I could go in there and I could do some things where I could tweak the drums. I could get the bass a little bit more refined. This is about going as far as you want to with each song. It just depends on what the mood is for that day. I hope this helped everybody out, and please, if you get a chance, hit the subscribe button. It's just down below. You can do it. It's not that hard to do it, is it? Just hit the subscribe, and then you'll be notified once every 17 years when I post the next video. All right. Hope everybody had fun with that, and we'll catch you on the rebound.